If I keep looking up at the ceiling every so often, it's because my family have been making a lot of noise up there. Crashing. The boys are running around, crashing about, not settling to bed. Their mum sort of cajoling them. And my eldest son, he's really into random noises, so he might just go blearg at any point. So yes, I might have to pause this video occasionally to go and sort them out. Last week I had to deal with a very show-off cat. Now, this week I've got my family trying to muscle in on the Weekly Biscuit. Anyway, what's caught my attention this week? Well, a number of things. So I'm going to start with a kind of frivolous culture war story, just as a warm-up. Now, there's a chap called Alan M. Cole on Twitter who was piling into the Generation X's. He's a millennial. And I had a look at his Twitter feed, and I was surprised to find that he wasn't a. At first, he sounded like he was from a alt media, left-leaning website. Worked for one of those, but no, he works for a Republican economic think tank. He writes articles. I think he's Chicago School economist, but he is totally a cut conservative. I mean, the amount of friendly fire you'll get from this guy. He buys, for example, into the whole, violent video games, stimulates violence, violent gaming. And he says, when I play chess, of course, when I go for a King's Pawn Gambit. But he was whaling into Generation X because apparently a number of them quote the movie Airplane at him. And he just thinks, oh, it's a frivolous pop culture reference. You Generation Xers and your pop culture references. They will soon wither, die, fade away, just like you. Well, the thing is that Airplane is one of those films that has gained a reputation over decades now. It's coming up to its 40th anniversary. And it wasn't a flash-in-the-pan film. It spawned a sequel, and that production team went on to make another number of productions covering different genres, but using the Airplane style. The quick-fire, nonsensical jokes, the visual puns, playing around with genre, but just keep those jokes non-stop firing. And if millennials like their Family Guy's humour owes a lot to Airplane's style. And this is a film that, as I said, it's not a flash-in-the-pan film. You may find the jokes torturous. I mean, my mum, for example, can't watch more than 10 minutes of Airplane at a time because just the groaning at all the jokes. And also, for her generation, guys like Robert Stack, which he was a teenager in the 1950s, Robert Stack, Leslie Nielsen, and Lloyd Bridges were kind of pin-ups and heartthrobs, square-jawed leading men, and she's seeing them just being utterly daft and stupid in this sort of deadpan, nonsensical film. But I think that's one of the reasons why it's persisted. It took all the disaster movie tropes, gave these lines of dialogue to former leading men, serious leading men, and just made the ultimate parody. And it is still a famous film, still eminently quotable after 40 years. Not just Generation X that quotes it, that's Mr. Cole. And what he's doing there is he's being very ignorant about what culture means to people. Now, back in the early 80s, when Airplane and its sequel, Airplane 2, were out, people quoted movies, but not many from my generation, some of the films of my generation, but some of the most quotable dialogue in film history that has persisted, that has attained fame and admiration, has come from films well before I was born. Around about the time I was born was Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. It was one of the most quotable films ever. My parents' generation loved that film, and they would tell me about Butch Cassidy, and they do some of the quotes from that film. And I think one stuck with me, I'm trying to remember the one that Butch says, but I wear bifocals. The world is blind, but I'm aware of bifocals. if they pay me to stop robbing banks, I'll stop robbing banks. Things like that. I mean, for my parents, a film like that, or Cool Hand Luke, with its line, "What we have here is a failure to communicate," has persisted. It's these famous films, famous lines. My grandparents' generation, it was Casablanca, and people, some of the most famous film quotes in history have come from that film. Here's looking at you, kid. You played it for her, and I play it for me. Play it, Sam. Which has often been misquoted. In all the bars, in all the gin joints, in all the world, she had to walk into mine. And if you don't get on that plane, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but you'll regret it soon and for the rest of your life. I think I've murdered that one as well. But you know what I mean. And if we were to if I was to turn to my grandparents' generation and says, when you lot all died, your films and your cultural references are going to die with you. It'll just fade away. But Casablanca hasn't, because it is perhaps the best love film ever done, because it's got everything. It's got the romance, it's got heartache, it's got fantastic performances, and it's set in World War II. There's something for everybody in Casablanca. And it has deserved its status. Now, Airplane's a completely different film, but because of those quick fire jokes, it is well remembered, because it just threw a bunch of humor on the screen. Most of it stuck. And as it is to silly films what Casablanca is to love films, Airplane. That's why it's persisted, Mr. Cole, and why you are going to hear people quoting Airplane at you. But the best response I saw to him on Twitter was when he just said, "Airplane, it's a nothing film. It will fade away like you Gen Xers." To which somebody replied, "Surely he can't be serious." Bang on. Just one more thing before we leave. Now, I said about Cole being a kind of Republican, bit of a cut conservative. All you people have got it in for Ben Shapiro, right? At least he's not this guy. We all have some we point to and go, he's terrible, but at least I'm not that guy. So, yeah, at least Shapiro isn't Alan M. Cole. So Caroline Lucas, the sole Green Party MP in the House of Commons, has written an article. This was kind of hot off the press, really. I've only just found this story out in the last hour or so, where she wrote either in The Guardian or The Observer that she feels that there needs to be an emergency all-female cabinet appointed to run the country. This follows a few days on after Jeremy Corbyn saying that he's going to take a taxi to Buckingham Palace and demand that the Queen make him Prime Minister and that he can form a government. All because, Eton man bad. And it's going to be disastrous, this kind of no-deal Brexit on October the 31st, which, again, is an erroneous reading of things. It's just that it's not that we are definitely going to go for a no-deal Brexit. It's just that no deal has been put back on the table. It's being considered as a possible outcome. The intention of the current government is, can they modify a deal? Can they either come up with something new, or heavily modify what they've got already, or perhaps go to one of the templates that Donald Tusk floated out there about 3 years ago? Can they go back to a template? But no, this government has said about no deal Brexit, it's just a possibility that they have to include and that they have to plan for, and that they refuse to rule out. It's not a definite at this stage. But everybody who's pro-EU is acting as if it is, because that suits her agenda. And so this is what Caroline Lucas is driving at. But she's given it an extra spin. It's not just all those people, all those experts, all those people who have the best interests of the country at heart, as opposed to the citizens who don't have the country's best interests at heart. But she's put the spin that she thinks an all-female cabinet. Now, I didn't read all the article because I just got through the first few sentences, and I knew I had to do a Biscuit episode. But I followed Caroline Lucas's career, and I know she's a misandrist, because when she first became leader of the Green Party a few years ago, she gave an inauguration speech, an initial speech, as where she said, we're going to tackle the problems of men and the problems are almost always caused by men. And so she laid out her misandry for all to see right from day one, and she's kept up there. She has plenty of white knights. When Jonathan Rhys-Davies got frustrated and slapped a table, of course that was a personal physical attack on Caroline Lucas's body itself, if you remember. But anyway, she is floating out this idea, and of course people are saying it's bonkers, there's no merit to this idea. I think she's saying all female because females are supposed to be more simpatico and empathetic and in tune with the world and have different ways of sorting out problems. Yes, I think I can see that, but only for her kind of people, and even within her kind of people. The moment somebody says so, trans people, should they get full rights, that all-female cabinet will pounce on each other. That left-leaning all-female cabinet will tear each other apart. You wouldn't want to be anywhere near number 10 when that happens. So I just lost my train of thought there. I thought the idea of a huge cat fight between left-leaning female MPs, but it's this kind of casual misandry, misandry that I think I need a drink. Okay. Airplane, still got it, eh? So it's the kind of casual misandry that we expect from Caroline Lucas and people who've gone far to the left. I don't even think she's into green politics anymore. Throat was drying there. I'm just gonna take a quick drink. Airplane, still got it, eh? So, anyway, I thought let's play along with Miss Lucas in my usual passive-aggressive, flippant style. I made some suggestions. Well, if you're going to have an all-female cabinet, may I suggest that we include Andrea Leadsom, Kate Hoey, Penny Mordaunt, Suella Braverman, Priti Patel, Gisela Stewart, and then there was another, I can't remember, but it was a Labour MP who just said, it's a very good idea, very interesting idea. I think we should take this under consideration. But I'm disappointed that Caroline didn't specifically mention any BAME female. So I go, yeah, come on, Priti Patel and Suella Braverman. Yeah, get them in there. It's just another day, another bit of insanity from the left. BPE have been outdoing themselves on the cringeworthiness. I mean, first of all, we had Dancing James, the yellow t-shirt, bollocks to Brexit Lib Dem guy, who shows us his groovy moves. Throw shapes, convex, concave. But that's not the most cringeworthy thing that happened this week. No, EU Supergirl, hot on the heels of her hit single. In love, praise of the EU, love the EU. She got out there. She interrailed all the way to Brussels, to where it got worse. She did a little interpretive dance with some other anti-Brexit people outside the EU in Brussels. But she then had a meeting with Guy Verhofstadt, where she presented him with a painting that she had painted of him. And it's got to be seen to be believed. I think you just need to Google Guy Verhofstadt painting. But just as a quick, how to describe it? I think it's a bit like... I think I got his look. I think I've got the... I mean, that eye needs to be up here. That's more like it, isn't it? Yeah, he said, you must have an army, and it must absorb Africa. Right. So, but then it all went sour. The dream turned sour. Because she went in her Supergirl outfit and tried to do the song and the dance. I don't know, maybe she had a big mural depicting the EU Commission as Christ and the Last Supper. But she got ejected because she was inappropriately dressed. And she said, this is anti-democratic. Yeah. You realised, I mean, that it's not really anti-democratic to be thrown out of a parliament building for not adhering to the dress code. She should have done her research on the EU in general. Then she wouldn't perhaps be so enthusiastic about it. But that's just, you got ammunition. If you are pro-Brexit and FPPE are giving you a hard time, you've got ammunition now. You can fire back at them. You say, what about these guys? Just FBP, if they say you're a moronic and moronic, have a look at this painting of Guy. So a list got released by the Guido Fawkes website on the new team of special advisors that have come in to advise Boris Johnson and his government. And this isn't just the PM special advisors. This is right across the board, and a lot of them have something in common. They're all free marketeers. Few people are of the Austrian school of economics. There's quite a lot of people who are more libertarian thinking. Not out and out libertarians, but more inclined to that. More inclined to free markets. I was asked for my reaction. We're going to end this week with a story about Pope Francis. He's been busy this week. He met the ecological activist Greta Thunberg, as you do. They had a chat about things, but I didn't hear that he suggested that she travel to China and speak to the Chinese government about environmental damage. So he was warning this week about European nationalism and how that will lead to Nazism and a new Hitler. So yes, comparing, warning about Hitler and meeting Greta Thunberg, who says the Pope's not hip and with it, with the youth and down with the kids. Now, if anybody should know a bit about real Nazis, it would be an Argentinian. They harboured enough of them after World War II, and they even tried out having a fascist-style government as well. So when he says European nationalism, he means the smaller states. He doesn't mean EU nationalism, which is alive, very much a project of a number of people. He's not calling out that. He's calling out the fact that Britain would like to be an independent country. Maybe a few other countries like Italy wouldn't mind being an independent country. But he's going down, he's pushing that false narrative that nationalism will lead to Nazism. This is so disingenuous. So take, for example, Christianity. Okay, think of all the people that you know who are Christians. Maybe you're one yourself. Maybe you're atheist or Jewish or Buddhist, Shinto, Rastafarian. But think of all the Christians you know. Okay, and kind of boil it down in your mind to what you think an average Christian is like, no matter what their denomination is, right? And you'll have this image that's pretty mainstream. Okay, and then you've got the Westboro Baptist Church. Now, do you think the majority of Christians that you meet, you deal with, friends, perhaps even family, are anything like the Westboro Baptist Church? Right? Have you ever met anybody who's like they're a member of the Westboro Baptist Church? I haven't, right? And I knock about Christians all the time, and but I've never met anybody who is even approaches views of the Westboro Baptist Church. And it's the same with nationalism. Most people who want their country to exist as a country, this kind of mainstream nationalism, where you take some pride in your nation's culture, its history, its traditions, its laws, the way it does things, the standard practices, the kind of cultural touching points that we all have, and you would like that. You'd like to keep that going. You don't want to have your country merged in with another country to form some super nation, which you feel less and less part of. This is perfectly understandable and agreeable. nationalism. It is not Nazism. And it's hugely disingenuous to suggest that one will lead to the other. But that's what you get these days when you have senior religious figures and people who are adept at getting into the newspaper, kind of that, forgetting to teach uh, their religion and to focus on the individual, which Christianity certainly is a religion that has a collective aspect to it. But at the end of the day, it's very much about personal salvation and personal uh, improvement rather than sort of mass collectivizing. I mean, I know in the book of Acts it talks about they all got together and they shared things, but they also did go apart as well. But it's a small community. It's not enforced from above. But these days you have got cathedrals with helter-skelters and crazy golf courses in them because they think that's what's going to bring people and that's what's going to appeal to them, rather than just staying true to what they believe and being consistent and being honest. But no. So Pope Francis is we're down the path of Nazism, although he is not criticising European nationalism. Oh no, he wouldn't do that. So on that note, I will bid you goodbye. And for me, Pope Francis definitely takes the biscuit, as I will do now.